thanks for being here.
Thank you for that very warm welcome. Much appreciated.
Now, so much to talk about. First of all, you were in the news a little bit last week, and I thought let's address that right at the top and just get to the bottom of it. In the United Kingdom, there's been this massive phone hacking scandal, and there's been a lot of outrage, and there have been people have resigned, and there might be criminal charges, and then it felt like last week you were starting to get pulled into it. You were once a newspaper editor.
That's right.
In England for which paper?
Well, News of the World, which was the one that was at the centre of the controversy. That was back in the early 90s, I would say.
In the early 90s.
And then the Daily Mirror for 10 years.
I see. And so I believe it was Paul McCartney's ex, Heather Mills, started to bring you into the whole thing.
Well, I kind of thought when Heather Mills poked her head up above the parapet, the whole thing got completely ridiculous. I mean, she is...
You're not a fan of Heather Mills.
Well, I introduced her to Paul McCartney.
Right.
A true story. Yeah. I actually introduced her at a Daily Mirror event. And that one decision by me cost Paul McCartney $50 million. So I do wish...
And put $50 million in her pocket.
Exactly. So, I mean, rather than haranguing me, she ought to be thanking me. And I do want to apologise, but to Paul for introducing him to Heather.
Yeah.
So, if that clarifies things...
Okay. So what was the nature of her comments? How was she trying to pull you into all this?
Oh, she was trying to sort of make out somehow I've been involved in hacking her phone. I've never hacked anybody's phone. I've never told anyone to. I've never published any stories that I believe were based on hacking her phone. Paul McCartney is apparently now claiming somebody hacked his phone. The police have told him that. I suspect it was Heather Mills, because in their divorce, if you study the divorce papers, Paul McCartney accused Heather then of hacking into his phones and passing information to the papers. So I suspect what she was doing was hiding herself from the whole thing, which makes it all the more mysterious. But Heather Mills is not the best person to be throwing any dynamite at anyone on this.
Well, do you think that are you going to have to go over to England and testify or get involved in this?
If I need to, I'm happy to. I've got nothing to hide at all. I mean, the thing is, it made me laugh. People were like, this guy used to edit tabloid papers. I was in tabloid newspapers for 25 years,
right.
Very proudly. I mean, a lot of the newspapers in Britain are great papers. The Daily Mirror was a great newspaper. And I read a book about all this. All the allegations they've thrown at me, actually, most of them come from my own book, written by me. It's like I've accused myself. So it's kind of like, you know, it goes with the territory. It's a bit annoying. I guess I'm hacked off.
Okay.
Let's leave it like that.
Leave it alone there. All right.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I've always noticed, I haven't experienced it personally, but it does feel like in the United Kingdom, the press plays really rough. And I know that you've actually gotten into a physical fight with another editor at a paper in England.
Well, it wasn't. It was actually a fellow TV presenter, and it wasn't really a fight because he just kept hitting me in the head. And I was at an awards ceremony for the press. There were 1,000. Imagine there's a room like this. There's 1,000 journalists and photographers, and I was unusually sober, completely sober. Otherwise, it would have been a fight. As it was,
I've never heard of someone in the audience at an awards ceremony being sober.
Exactly,
but,
exactly. So
good for you.
This guy, we have a bit of a history over stuff he didn't like that I was publishing about him. So eventually, he just came towards me, and he'd had quite a few drinks, and he just went bang. And you can see a little scar on my forehead. It comes up when I get an English red-faced tan like this. And he just whacked me, and I went, my God, he's hit me. So I thought then, you know, what do you do? So I thought, be gracious. So I said, listen, I understand your anger. Bang! So now I really understood his anger. Then a third one came in. Then he tried to headbutt me. And by then, all the journalists of the rival newspapers, it was like a scene out of the Wild West, all began just smashing into each other. And I thought the one thing I knew was he would write about it. He's a columnist. I thought, I've got to get a line in. I was just thinking all the time, as these blows rained in, I've got to come up with a funny line.
Are you at all raising your arms at any point?
No, I'm more
That's what's strange in this story, is you're sitting there...
I'm standing.
Thinking... You're standing?
Standing, and these blows are raining in as I'm trying to think of a funny line. And I remembered the...
That's a terrible defence.
We are a bit weird British.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of this funny line, and as I'm thinking of it, I'm thinking of the Rumble in the Jungle, Ali Foreman, and that moment when Foreman beat him up for 6 rounds, and at the end of it, Ali pulled him in and just went, that all you got, George? Right. So I thought, I need a variant of this. So I just pulled him in after the third punch and went, my 3-year-old son hits me harder than that. And that became, luckily, the line that everyone remembered. So I got the scar. He apparently broke his little finger hitting me, and I got the line.
You showed him.
Exactly. But the worst thing...
My defence was to let him hit me so hard for so long that he broke his finger.
the worst thing was all my brothers were like, you know, my brother's an British Army colonel, and he's like, what the hell were you thinking? Embarrassing the family. Why didn't you hit him back? And I went, well, I thought I might get fired. And 3 weeks later, I got fired anyway. So next time, if someone hits me, if you're thinking of doing it...
No, I'm not. No. You'd go right back at me? I thought you're the perfect guy to attack. You don't fight. You'd be sitting there for 20 minutes. Oh, get him with a witty quip.
I wouldn't labour...
Oh, I've got a topper for you, O'Brien.
You know what? Just try it, yeah?
Yeah, I'll be good. I promise I'll behave. Sharon Osbourne went after you at one point as well, didn't she? She was not too happy with you. She tried to hit you? Did she hit you?
Again, I'd written a few things about Sharon before, published them, but she wasn't happy with. And then, to my horror, she's made the new judge on America's Got Talent. Right. And I find this out 3 days before, and then we meet for a dinner in Hollywood. And Jerry Springer is the new host. And Jerry's seen a few fights in his time, right?
Sure.
So we're all sitting there at this long table, about 12 people, NBC executives, producers from the show, Sharon and me. And Sharon has a couple of glasses of wine, which is always a bad sign. And after the third or fourth, suddenly I heard, right! And I thought, oh, no, here we go. And she went, you are nothing but a pin-pushing little Simon Cowell effing wannabe. And I was like, right, any good points? And she went, no, none. And I went, well, you'll just need to calm down, Sharon. And with that, she got up, ran round, grabbed me by the neck and began to try and strangle me. At which point, everything got completely out of hand. And then I saw Jerry Springer being led away by frantic executives, shaking his head. I was thinking, if even Jerry can't deal with this, we have a problem. So
I love that Jerry's like, this is too low class for me. I can't be a part of anything this.
He said he'd never been so disgusted.
Yeah.
But then Sharon went home and spoke to Ozzy, and apparently he told her he'd got to ring and apologise, by which time I was asleep, and I had this vague memory of Sharon ringing me in the middle of the night. I'm sorry, puss. I don't know what came over me. And then the next day I thought, oh, well, we'll just let it go. But so we were like best friends on set. And all the Americans are going like, these Brits are so weird.
I like that she sounds like a Monty Python sketch.
Oh, she does. Oh, she does. She does.
Parrots? We don't have any parrots.
Her favourite line is, how very dare you? How dare you?
And then you later had a very strange encounter with Sharon Osbourne on a plane. Is that true?
Well, the nightmare for me on America's Got Talent is we share this private plane which zips us around the cities for auditions. And although it sounds very glamorous, it's actually hell, because it's just Howie Mandel, who doesn't sleep and just cracks jokes for 6 hours. Then you have Nick Cannon, who just tells you boring stories about Mariah Carey. And then...
This is good.
And then, just to round things off, I remember it was a trip from Atlanta down to LA, and it was like 4 hours or something, and I'd fallen asleep finally, and I woke up to a commotion, and I saw Howie, I think it was, or Nick, with the video camera, and there was just this thing going on, and I looked up, and Sharon Osbourne's naked breast was in my face. And I actually thought I was having some hallucinogenic nightmare, and then I sort of blinked, and I realised it really was Sharon standing there with her naked breasts in front of my face. Now, if you haven't seen Sharon, I mean, they're very expensive. She bought them a few years ago. And they are indisputably impressive, but at 3 in the morning, after a long day's filming, that's not what you want.
So you wake out of a sound sleep, and there's a naked woman's breast.
Yes.
And what do you think? You're thinking, like, the moon has a nipple on it. What,
yes,
yes. You're, like, completely
And in the
confused.
background is a cackling Howie Mandel, and I've got Nick Cannon going, I can't wait to tell Mariah about this. I'm like, this is hell on earth.
You tell some very good stories. You're in trouble, but I'm happy. America's Got Talent airs Tuesday and Wednesday nights at 9 on NBC. And, of course, Piers Morgan Tonight airs weeknights at 9 on CNN.
When are you coming on, by the way?
Anytime you want.
Is that a deal? You definitely yes?
Yeah, why not?
You hear that, everyone?
Why not?
People need more of me on television.
Piers Morgan, J.B. Smoove from Curb Your Enthusiasm coming up. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Everybody, thank you. Jimmy Vivino and his pink Paisley guitar.